Live from downtown Detroit, it's the No Bullshit News Hour with my main man, Charlie LeDuff and Karen Dumas.
No bullshit!
What's just it breaking news? No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
We back on, homie?
We are.
We're back, homie.
Hey, Charlie.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
I want to thank everybody that gave me support through all this. It was nice. It got back to me. But I had to curl up and let this process play out before I could say anything, and I'll tell you why. But I'd like to thank the constables of my city, for treating me with dignity, doing their job, and me and my wife and I would like to apologize. It's kind of immature at this age to have that happen, but it did, and we endeavor to become better people. Having said that, charges dismissed. I do not beat my wife. I'm not going to talk about it. There's a transcript. There's media reports, few of them, less of them than when I actually got taken away, but they're there. See, because a man doesn't talk about what goes on in his home. I'll leave that to lesser men to speculate what goes on in my home and have glee. I'll leave that to the drug addicts who work at the alt weeklies or the men who wear girdles on TV. But I would like to say it was unfair. Going through that and just watching it, like the charges are dismissed. But I wasn't for 5 months allowed to go back to my house, even with the police officer, to get my coat when they kicked me out of lockup. And by the way, I've done more time now overnight in the can than any of the perpetrators of Flint, any of the perpetrators of the mass poisoning of Detroit and its dirt.
Think about that.
Yeah, street cred, Charlie.
Yeah. Oh, there was a dude in there's Devon, and I was reading from the book of Daniel to him.
Of course you were.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you have
Read a
been?
little Quran. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Very interesting. But they kicked me out the next day. It's like 5 degrees and the wind's blowing. No coat. My constable said, I've never heard of that. That's unusual. That's not customary, right? I wasn't allowed to get underwear. No contact period. I wasn't allowed through this 5 months to even get my tax papers.
Wow.
They didn't care
No.
if my kid crumbled or if the family crumbled or the house went into fault. I think they hoped for it, but we do have our act together.
Yeah. But you said it right, Charlie. They didn't care. And this was also an opportunity for a lot of people to try to get back at you for telling a truth and uncovering and discussing things that have otherwise just gone unnoticed and been swept under the rug.
Lawfare, because that's a Sixth Amendment deal. Your right to a speedy trial and to have a prohibition against uncustomary things happening to you. And it's uncustomary that I won't be able to get my taxes.
It's true.
The judge, I had 3/4 appearances, one to be arraigned, one pre-trial and one bench trial. At the pre-trial, the judge said everybody for the trial needs to be in the courtroom. And so, since the prosecutor can't be in the courtroom in April, we're going to kick this thing to mid-May. Remember, I got taken out of there in December because you have to be there. So the day comes, I haven't talked to my wife. The day comes and the judge decides she's coming in by Zoom because she's got the sniffles. She doesn't look like she has the sniffles. She's all done up, right? And I don't know what my wife's going to say. So my wife comes in and she invokes her Fifth Amendment right. And the judge is not accepting her right in a criminal case not to incriminate herself. The judge says, I will decide if that's applicable in a criminal case.
Is that a choice?
It's not unheard of.
I've never heard of that.
I haven't either.
This is unheard of. So my wife in open court, even if I've never seen a lawyer object to a judge's order. You know, usually you object to what the other lawyer said. My wife's attorney is objecting. In open court, you're going to make her say what happened?
And that's really the only reason to do it in open court is for embarrassment. There's other ways to get a statement and keep it out of the record, right? You can do it in chambers.
I would think.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, and then
I've seen TV shows.
Yeah, but like in a family court matter, like dissolution of a marriage, right?
Yeah,
like the judge can ask you what your reason. I've never heard of this. Nobody's heard of this. It's lawfare. Not only is it an open court, but my good old pals from the fading Fox 2, man, the ratings are tanking. They got a camera there rolling. I don't think they got what they wanted. Like LeDuff is not a wife beater, right? And all the people trashing me aren't there.
Right. Well,
but there's a transcript.
The salaciousness of it was gone.
This is fucked up. So that goes on TV. See, so she didn't get her Fifth Amendment right. They moved the law around her. They corrupted the law under the guise of upholding the law. You see what I'm saying?
I see what you're trying to say.
See it, but in the end, I'm not saying there's a connection, but this is really interesting. The judge in my matter is besties with Dana Nessel. We don't get along. You got that clip?
Yep.
All right, let's hear it.
Again, I do solemnly swear or affirm to uphold the Constitution of the State of Michigan and the United States Constitution and to discharge my duties as the Attorney General of the State of Michigan according to the best of my abilities. I do. Thank you.
So, there's my judge saying, will you uphold the Constitution of the United States? And you violated nastily. You violated my wife's constitutional rights. Those are God-given rights we believe as Americans. Wow.
Unreal.
So that's...
But not really unreal though, Mark. I mean, you look at all the stuff that Charlie's been talking about for years now, and it kind of aligns with everything else. The exploitation, utilization of position for personal gain and benefit. It's...
All right, well, maybe I'm old school and I don't have a problem with corruption when it's about money or power. But
just basic stuff.
When it's basic pettiness.
Yeah, it's epidemic level these days.
Well, you know, I know people in the circles, you know, I mean, they're going to stretch that for all it was worth. Right. They were hoping. And again, say what you want. My wife told the truth. That wasn't rehearsed. I didn't talk to her. I curled up. You all notice. I just did Twitter columns about the economy and stuff. I'm trying to talk with my folks. You know what I mean? Since your parents sent me to a great public university and public high school, University of Michigan. I did study law and economics and finance, right, and politics. And you're not dumb. We in the media, you count on us to get you the stuff in a concise way that's accessible.
And factual.
They all write in the blah, blah, and the words
and
are
factual.
incorrect. So, you know, that's what I've been trying to do. I had to curl up. They dragged that shit out for a half a year.
Yeah.
And they would have dragged it on longer, I think, if it were any way possible. They would have. If that was a way to keep you off the air, Charlie, and out of their hair, they would have done it.
Yeah, well, I'm back. And you see this, folks? I'm going to do some follow-up here. Look, TV cares more about what's going on in my home than they do about what went on in the nursing homes. And I got 2 bombshells, and then we're going to get out of here because I got next week's show to prepare. But big things are happening. We just grown. You screwed up. I've grown. I've gotten better. I've gotten in shape, healthier.
And Charlie.
In tune.
And the hair.
Hair's grown, yeah.
I am jealous. Like, Charlie's hair looks better than mine.
It's really great.
Don't I belong on money?
On money.
All right, I'm at... and thanks to the sponsors for sticking by. Thanks for everybody calling, checking in on me. You realize you're a rich person when you have friends and you have choices. So thank you for that. That's all that's going to be said about it. And today's my 32nd wedding anniversary.
Well, happy anniversary,
Yeah.
Charlie, to you and Amy.
Thank you. And word from our sponsors.
I'm Grace Karos, and I'm third generation of American Coney Island. People say Detroit's a comeback city. I say, where you been? We've been here for over 100 years. My family's been here on the same corner, serving our famous proprietary American Coney Island hot dog. So like always, we're keeping things fresh, updated, and new. We'd love to have you come downtown and visit us, but if you can't, you can always go to AmericanConeyIsland.com, order a Coney kit, get it delivered fresh right to your door.
Well, you know, when it rains, the power goes out. And when the power goes out, the internet goes out. When the internet goes out, I call my friend Matt and Bernie at XG Service Group. Look at Bernie here on his hands and knees, giving it everything he's got. Look at that man crack. So busy, he forgot to wear a belt. There's Matt right there getting the board together. That's 734-245-4100 if you need Matt and Bernie to come take care of your voice over internet, your security cameras, off-campus access control, Wi-Fi, and cameras for homes and business. They'll design it for you. You got restaurants, they do drive-through systems, railroad cameras for public safety, total wireless camera systems for your home and business. Yeah, that's right. Call XG Services at 734-245-4100.
This message of Uplift is brought to you by business and personal wealth advisor Luke Nowacki, who reminds you that what does it profit a man to gain the whole world but never enter the kingdom of God? But while you're waiting, Nowacki wants you to remember that overreaction is not a sound financial strategy. So call Luke Nowacki at 248-663-4748 for sound financial advice.
See, I can't help it. So when I get my time out, I'm still working.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got files. It's election season. And they're not going to get away with it. I got a ton. This next one I'm going to tell you. I've got more. I got the internal communications with the governor and the health department regarding these nursing homes. So let's just watch what happens, because Gretchen Whitmer doesn't belong within 500 miles of Washington, D.C. Now, full disclosure, I voted for her once. Last week, there was a study right here published in the Journal of the American Medical Association, written by researchers from Harvard, UCLA, and the Women's Hospital in Boston. It shows that nursing homes that accepted people infected with COVID and commingled them with healthy patients without COVID, these facilities had a death rate 73% higher than nursing homes that didn't commingle people. And of course, Michigan did and kept doing it and is still doing it. And yet Whitmer continues to deny that she ordered this to happen. She denies she copied New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. She even denies that they had a relationship. Watch. New York was ground zero for this. I mean, New York got whacked, maybe 30,000 deaths the first year and 20,000 the second. The Democratic governors, the states around you, they came to you, right? They copied what you were doing because you were already dealing with it.
Correct.
Caught flat-footed. Let's do what Cuomo's doing in New York, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. And you kept track of not only nursing homes, but assisted living, old people apartments. You did all that. That stuff, you can go online and see it in New York, correct?
Yes.
So you weren't hiding any of that. Now, you and Whitmer also put out a joint press release when Trump was coming after you, saying the federal response needs to be investigated. Remember this?
Yes.
Okay. Let me play you a clip here. This is well after the fact. You're gone. Everybody else gets to move on. This is a local news program, Fox 2 with Governor Whitmer.
You said you always were in touch with these governors. You would chat with them and ask them questions. Did you happen to talk to other governors about the nursing home situation? And did you talk to Cuomo about it at any point?
I never talked. I mean, didn't have a relationship with him.
True or false?
Well, a relationship is a question of perspective. If she says we didn't have a relationship, we didn't have a relationship.
Did you ever talk?
Well, I'm sure you have a press release that we both did. I'm sure that that didn't happen anonymously.
Did you ever talk about nursing homes?
I don't recall specifically what we talked about. Well, that topic of that press release was the nursing homes.
Wow.
Okay, Como ordered them commingled, and that happened for 46 days, and then he stopped because of the uproar. Then he got investigated by his own attorney general. They found the true nursing home count. He lost his job, and yesterday he was dragged in front of Congress for closed-door testimony. Not Whitmer. She skated. In fact, her name is being mentioned for the White House. She's got a book coming out. The happy to be there media of Michigan plays along, spreads the lie, and covers the deaths. It's despicable. Those lapdogs continue to report 5,600 deaths in long-term care facilities. The true number is more like 14,000. That means Whitmer buried 7,000 corpses in a statistical mass grave. That makes Michigan's nursing home deaths by far the worst in America. That makes it more than Florida, more than California, and almost as many as New York, which is twice as big and 5 times denser. This makes Michigan's response and Whitmer's response ripe for a special prosecutor. Instead of tamping down the pandemic, her response was to feed the flames that led to more deaths and then to lie about it. We ruined our children to protect the old. Everybody knew kids weren't dying from it, but maybe they were going to touch grandma and she'd die from it. So then why did we put the COVID infected elderly in the buildings with the healthy elderly and then pretend it was a better response? At the very least, this is demonic indifference. And it's coming back because it's election season. You don't just walk off when you don't get to see your brother die. When you say goodbye to your mother via Zoom. When your kid is strung out on 3 screens and losing their minds.
It should come back, Charlie, and that should be a factor going forward. And for people that say, well, that was then, we didn't know how to handle a pandemic. You don't need to be a mathematician or a scientist or a medical doctor to know that if, in fact, someone has a contagious disease, that they will spread that disease if they're around someone who doesn't have that disease.
And hanging up a plastic
shower
tarp
curtain,
is your COVID wing? Now, the media is shit. Sorry, that's where we're going to go now. I saw what you did. It's a fact. All of you that went along with this. Here, can I explain a little bit?
Please
Tell me if it goes. I got to give you the facts, people. Like, what do you mean 14,000? Yes. Let me start with executive order. The other thing is this. Cuomo stopped doing it May 10th. This was with May 17th. We're going to keep doing it. Minnesota did it. They stopped doing it when they realized 83% of the deaths were in the nursing homes. Pennsylvania stopped doing it when it was over 60%. New Jersey stopped doing it, not Michigan.
But that's what you do when you're trying to figure something out. When you see it's not working, you pivot. Yep. That's the thing.
Well, you copied Cuomo because everybody in your administration's a dope. So why didn't you copy him
when he stopped?
Okay, so this is Executive Order 2020-90. I remember when she took over the Constitution and wouldn't let it go and wouldn't let us go to work. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's what it says. A long-term care facility must not prohibit admission or readmission of a resident based on COVID-19 testing. Next, except as provided as soon as capacity allows, the long-term care facility of origin must accept the return of the resident. There is no statutory grounds to refuse them. Next. Long-term care facilities must keep accurate and current data regarding the quantity of PPE available and report such data to the Health and Human Services.
Uh-oh.
It's my parking.
Yeah.
A nursing home must make reasonable A nursing home must make all reasonable efforts to create a unit dedicated to the care and isolation of COVID-19 affected. So far, what are you hearing here? They were required to create COVID wings, and they had to take people that were hot back, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
We all
If
remember that.
the long-term care facility does not have a dedicated unit, it must attempt to transfer the COVID-19 affected resident to a regional hub, an alternate care facility, or an available swing bed. Once a long-term care facility resident who has been hospitalized due to the onset of one or more of the symptoms of COVID becomes medically stable, the discharge the hospital shall discharge to any of the following: a regional hub, the facility where the resident resided, or a swing bed. Right?
Yep.
So
Remember all that? Yep.
let me go back.
That's why we put all those beds at the Huntington place
at whatever this is,
Yeah,
Huntington
yeah.
or
Cobo.
TNC or whatever.
One of those
Yeah,
banks.
Cobo.
Also, all long-term care facilities must report to Health and Human Services all presumed COVID cases in the facility, together with any additional data required under DHHS guidance, which is
Department of Health and Human
cases amongst residents, deaths among residents, cases among staff, deaths among staff.
So you get a rate. Yep.
It's required. Okay, well, and here, what's the definition of a long-term care facility? I'm sorry, folks, I got to lay it out for you. A long-term care facility
Well, no other special prosecutor is going to do it yet, so you might as well.
means a nursing home, a home for the aged, adult foster care facility, or assisted living facility. This means federally funded skilled nursing facilities, that's a nursing home. Home for the aged, and adult foster homes. These are for people that are just old and need someone to look after them, or you're mentally disabled, right? And then the senior apartments and stuff. That means all of them. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. Here's the list for the all four types: skilled nursing, home for the aged, adult apartments. Here it is. May 22nd. Here's the thousands that got the email. And go on. This is much longer, but I just want to show you thousands of people
Those
on
are
this email.
emails? Those are all email addresses?
Email addresses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I got a hold of them. Some were nursing homes, some were senior apartments, some were home
assisted living
No,
facilities?
there's the adult foster care, and then there's a home for the aged.
Oh.
With 4 people in it, right? 5 people in all types. They all got it. Okay. So now that's what they told them. So I had to sue the state because Michigan was the last one to provide fucking nursing home deaths. And at first, all they did was the federally licensed nursing homes, not the other ones, even though the governor's pen said do so. And they gave them a place where to put it. It's a place called Gizmo, right? It's a software called Gizmo.
Oh.
Okay, now remember. So I sue the state for the COVID numbers. They kind of incomplete. You remember, they pushed it all the way. I got it all the way, and the Auditor General of Michigan did a study. Now, all of a sudden, later, when the Supreme Court says you can't be the dictator, you got to restore the Constitution, they changed the reporting guidelines. Now it's going to be skilled nursing facilities, homes for the aged, and adult foster care with 13 people or more. Well, what about the ones with 13 people or less?
Yeah.
And what about the senior apartments and stuff? So, he writes, they don't have it. They don't have any data for that. So
The Auditor General wrote.
what'd I say?
No, he.
The Auditor General said we don't have any data. It says right here, because these facilities are not required to be licensed, we could not identify a complete listing of them and therefore did not include them in our review. So anyway, the ones he did count, it was 25% higher than they were self-reporting. So the death count was not 5,600, it was 7,000. Now this was only through July of 21. You might wonder, well, how many were there through May of 2023 when the pandemic ended? You had to dig and you look around and you look around. They're saying 7,300. So they never fixed this. The state never fixed their number. So take 7,300. What's 25% more than that? About 9,400. What about all the other ones that did report? And now they're saying they didn't report. Something fucked up's going on. Let me through.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'm thinking. Go ahead.
So I found those other ones, you know, the senior apartments, the homes for the aged under 12, very deep in the licensing and regulatory agency. You gotta really go deep into these things. And here's what it looked like. This stack is 300 pages long. It's 4,000 facilities they got rid of. It looks like this, unformatted Excel. Look, it's like a run-on sentence. If you're just listening, it just looks like X's and O's, data, data. See it? See it?
Yeah. It's
but you know, LeDuff's a little smarter. What I did was copy, put it into Excel and format it, and this is what it looks like.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
It's the address. It's the number of beds you have. It turns out they left 1/3 of it out. 1/3 of all the deaths, and these ones aren't really regulated by the state. They're called unlicensed, right? But they're registered as businesses. They're LLCs, as you'll see. Okay, so assuming a virus acts like a virus 100% of the time, and assuming math becomes math 100% of the time, if I've got 9,400 with 2/3, right? That means there's another third. That's about another 4,500. That's 14,000.
Wow.
That's 14. Okay, now, want some proof that they deleted that data?
Yes.
It's right here. This from the spokesperson at Health and Human Services. Exactly 2 years to the day. Hi, Charlie. When facilities transition from the self-reporting gizmo survey to Health and Human Services directed and required reporting in Qualtrics, they were required to complete a registration. During that registration, they supplied their historical data, not the raw data. Add it up and give me a number. They never required a name, a social security number, right? A date of death. They didn't require anything. Just give me a number. What the fuck was that? Remember they were tracking us like we went to a bar? The disease surveillance system. Remember that?
They did.
That comes into play. So the first day entry for these facilities is reflective of the historical data. So yes, the data migrated over and is included in the totals, but we no longer have access to survey gizmo data to provide individual facility information collected through that platform. Please note that Health and Human Services did not collect data from assisted living facilities, and the data is included is the stuff I told you. That's fucking crazy.
This is, and because I can hear some people saying, all right, that was then, what difference does it make? Well, two things. For someone whose family was negatively impacted, they lost a loved one, yeah, it does matter.
Yes,
it will always matter.
I promise them.
And then you're talking about the integrity of a person and a process that should continue to come in question as they seek new political opportunities to represent people who depend on them to make sound decisions that impact their lives. So that's, I'm just saying, when people are saying, oh, well, that was a long time ago, they didn't know what happened, what difference does it make? We've moved on. But you shouldn't.
What about the next time?
Well, the next time, but just it speaks to the character and integrity of a person and a process that's supposed to serve you, not penalize you.
And let me marry those two thoughts. This woman is being mentioned as a potential alternative for president of the United States. So it goes to integrity and the way, your inability to actually run a functioning administration. And then, as Mark says, you have no practice in responding to the next one, as you won't even admit to us what you did to our grandparents and our parents and our brothers and our sisters.
Or proof that you can think critically and function and execute strategically. I mean, that to me is a lot. And this isn't, you know, people always say, oh, it's a personal. No, nothing about this is personal at all. It's about having somebody that is committed and capable of doing what they're elected to do.
That can do the job.
we'll go like this, about the nursing homes. If there's something, we need a special prosecutor. That would normally be the attorney general.
Yep.
But here's what they did. So here comes the report after Ringler comes out, and it was very sophisticated. What he did was check the death certificate with the disease surveillance system to see if that's the person that you had it, and this is where you live, that's your last address. And then he would check it with your Social Security check. Where was that getting mailed? That's how he did it. So Nessel was covering for this. There's a huge cover up. Look, you got that when she was the keynote speaker at the nursing home lobby breakfast?
Yep, you ready?
Yeah, roll that.
And I'm just tired of hearing it regurgitated over and over and over again that terrible things happen at your facilities. It's not true.
She took over $10,000 from this lobby. Whitmer's taken over $40,000 from this lobby.
And that's why, Charlie.
Okay, so here's what Nessel wrote. Okay, even considering the auditor's 7,000 nursing long-term care facility, let's just get that straight. Even considering 7,000 deaths that he identified that were required to self-report deaths, this number is significantly different than the 5,600 reported by the health department. But this difference, states Nessel, is irrelevant because it relies on an apples and oranges comparison. Human beings aren't apples or oranges. Yeah. So she goes on. Despite attempts to validate the self-report, you let the fox in the henhouse. Despite the attempts at the self-reported data, the data only remains valid if the long-term care facilities accurately self-report. Duh. So who's making sure they accurately self-report? Well, the health department does not verify its count based on any analysis. Okay. In contrast, writes Nessel, the Auditor General's count relies exclusively on its attempt to analyze death certificate records and data. So one is trying to verify through data, and the other one's I'll take your word for it, and I won't even check. Put simply, writes Nessel, the Inspector General and the Health Department each attempted to identify the number of long-term care deaths in entirely different ways. Thus, it should not be unexpected that the results are different. Comparing the counts is largely meaningless because they each counted deaths differently.
Wow. I gotta tell you, next time I do my taxes, I'm just going to self-report approximately what I made. I'm going to provide no data, and we'll see how accurate it is. Because when you self-report, you're going to make it look better.
And then we get audited, and they're going to use data and computers, and I'm going to go, that's apples and oranges.
Yeah, it's got
fucking ridiculous.
See how they... I like that.
What the fuck? Okay, so give me the old dum-da-dum-dum. Give me that. I'm back.
Dum-da-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum. Dum-da-dum-dum. Dana.
That felt so good.
Welcome back.
I need to have a cigarette after that. I'm back. I'm not going away. This is going to blow up this election year.
Yeah.
It's that case over there in the west side of the state's still going, and I think it's pretty big. Now, let's tell you what I'm talking about. Remember the See You Next Tuesday incident?
Oh, boy.
LeDuff's loose. He's nuts, right? No, what I was doing was nobody wanted to pick up on that story about the treasurer of the state Democratic Party, a best friend of Nessel's, a best friend of Whitmer's, the woman who ran the campaign for the now retired Chief Justice of the Michigan Supreme Court, really tied in, treasurer of the party, was accused of insurance fraud, financially abusing what the treasurer does, Tracy Cornack. What she does in her real job is she's a conservator, right?
Mm-hmm.
Old people manages their affairs, so
Right.
she's into their money. She attempted to, according to the nursing home now, not, I'm not a judge, jury, or anything, but that this, the accusation is you took the assisted living facility's tax ID number, you concocted some billing, put their number on it, and said your daughter was an employee there and that she needed to be reimbursed nearly $50,000 for care, and there's no record of her being in the building, no key swipe, no signing in, right? So I wrote a story. October, I got the internal documents, and I got a lot of internal documents that said there was an ethical firewall. Nessa wasn't to know about it, not to ask questions, not to see anything. She did it anyway. Okay. Wow. And then it became big. Nobody wanted to follow it. Nessa post shit on Twitter, calling me a fake and a fraud. The publisher of the Detroit News goes through it line by line, colon, semicolon. It's all correct. And he even wrote the shit she was making up in that post didn't meet the standards for making it in the newspaper. They wouldn't publish that. Okay. Nobody's paying attention. I say, I'll see you next Tuesday. You guys don't know what I was doing. I actually really care. And I accomplished what I want to accomplish in life. This is a journalistic backwater now. I don't care what I was doing. I thought it would be the high-heeled mafia that called for my head, right? But I didn't know it was going to be my own colleagues. That is some you're going to get yours.
And in public.
And I didn't know what that meant. Everybody's like, "Oh, that mean." I was like, I didn't know.
Let me say, by time out.
It's because no one said it to you before.
No, they wouldn't.
In my time out, right?
Yeah.
What I gave up for when I just said you're going to get yours. Let me explain what that means. Coming from me, I gave up self-pity for Lent. I did actually. I tried to do something spiritual instead of just give like meat or whatever. And I learned, like, every time I would feel bad for myself, I'd stop it, analyze it, go for a walk, move on, dude. All right? Just fix what you can fix. I realized that the siblings of self-pity are vengeance, anger, egoism, right? There's a lot of, it's a big family. So when I say you're going to get yours, I'm not hunting. I'm just doing my job. But when everything plays out, you're exposed. In fact, you're exposed already. Nobody reads you. Nobody watches you. You're not giving the people what they want. And when you give it to them, you got to be a good writer or you got to be a good editor. You got to make, right? It can't be boring. And you're not good at writing. Nobody understands what you write. That's why they're leaving. And you're lying to them and you're picking a side. You go to Mackinac with the business leaders and the political leaders and you think you're one of them. They're just manipulating you and you're the only one that doesn't see it. All the people know, just check your ratings. Everybody knows. So I realized in my time out, wait a minute. You said Nessel wrote in that tweet that Miss Cornack was able to get her file like any other citizen through the Freedom of Information Act. I said, okay. You didn't give me that in the original documents. So I FOIA'd that. Oh. She asked for the documents at 9:44 at night, and the very next day, she got them. Takes me a month. Okay? The next day was December 7th. The case was still active. She was still a suspect in a criminal case, and they gave her the case.
That doesn't make any sense.
I don't even know if it's illegal because nobody ever heard of it. So you know who I called? I called the lawyer I know, Bruce Cutler. You ever heard of Bruce Cutler?
No.
He's John Gotti's lawyer.
Oh.
I called Bruce. I go, Bruce, how you doing? It's Charlie. He goes, Charlie, my man, how's it going? I go, it's great. Listen, Bruce, you got the Don off twice, but not the third time. Not the third time. You think you could have got him off if the FBI and the prosecutors had given you the case file and the wiretaps ahead of the indictment? He goes, I don't know, but it wouldn't have fucking hurt. And then Bruce said, it sounds to me like you need a special prosecutor to look into the Attorney General's office's behavior in this, but you're probably not going to get that because this is politics, right? And I go, no, it's people. Bruce, it's people. Because here's what they sent her. I didn't know this, but on the original story, when I wrote about the alleged insurance fraud, a week later, that was in like July 2022, a week later, it was so weird that the investigator wrote it down. She had never heard of anything like this. The investigator wrote, I was notified via email that Tracy Kornak had contacted the department stating that she would provide a statement and turn over any information she had related to the allegations made by Joe LeBlanc, the assisted living head of the senior living, in the Detroit News article. I telephoned Kornak at the provided number. After identifying myself as an investigator with the Department of Attorney General, I asked Kornak what information she wished to provide related to the article. I informed Kornak that while I am a criminal investigator, our office had not at the time of our conversation received a criminal complaint regarding the allegation. I informed her that it is generally not standard practice for me to obtain a statement from someone accused of wrongdoing when the only known accusations were from an article in a newspaper, especially when I had not spoken to the individual making the accusations to confirm the accuracy of the article. However, since it was my understanding that she reached out to the department of the Attorney General to provide a statement, I would document what she wanted. Someone told her to call the investigator.
So unusual.
I wonder who that is. Okay, so, and this is what she told the investigator. I'll keep it short. The investigator writes, Kornak stated her daughter would go in and fill the gap because there wasn't enough nurses and aides to help this brain damaged old woman, of which Kornak is the power of attorney, right? Kornak stated her daughter would go in and fill that gap. When asked how her daughter was paid for her gap services, Kornak stated her daughter was paid out of the brain damaged old lady's bank account, and then she sought reimbursement for the ward via the invoices submitted to State Farm.
Wow.
Okay, the problem is 10 months earlier, the check was sent back to State Farm and the allegations were made by the nursing home. In fact, she told the director of the nursing home, just cash it and keep 10%, give me the rest.
What?
It's in text messages. 10% for the big guy. Then she tried to blame him for it, but the record doesn't show that. Now, she told the investigator in July of 2022 that she had taken the money to pay her daughter, there's no record, right? And was going to put it back in after the insurance check came through, which was a year earlier and got returned because it was sketchy. But after the check was returned, here's the IRA account statement for this year, through August 2022. 30 grand was taken out.
Jeez.
So what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? Because we'll see, because they're really looking hard in Kent County. So I'm just going to do this because I don't feel like rooting around in all the shows and all the things I've written. Governor Whitmer, your treasurer, you're the principal Democrat in this state. Your treasurer is in a hot mess. You have not commented on it. Attorney General, your friend, you got yourself in a hot mess. What's the comment on it? Democratic Party of Michigan, your treasurer is in a hot mess. The nursing homes. And I got more. But I'm getting tired. One more thing. Your treasurer used to be the conservator of the brain damaged old woman. And then she gained durable power of attorney. She became the agent for the woman. See, here it is.
How?
Durable power of attorney, Tracy Kornak to the woman. Now, the thing is, it's signed by two witnesses. It appears to me one of them is Tracy Kornak. You're witnessing
herself.
That's interesting.
That's like self-reporting.
That's doesn't seem ethical, does it?
No.
Not one
If
bit.
if that's the case,
At
and
the
I'll
very
leave
least,
it. You know,
yeah.
there could be an explanation. Maybe it doesn't say Tracy M. Kornak, for instance. Fine. But here, this is Michigan compiled law 700.5501, subsection 2A. The durable power of attorney must be signed in the presence of two witnesses, neither of whom is the attorney in fact, which is the agent, and both of whom also sign the durable power of attorney. So you can't do that. I don't know why 2 weeks later at why this case was closed. There's basically a confession. Yeah. Look, man, I'm not an investigator, but this durable power of attorney raises some.
That doesn't make any sense, Charlie. You don't have to be an investigator. You don't have to be an attorney. You cannot authorize yourself to something for somebody else without a witness, without authorization. You can't be that. What did you say, Mark?
It's like self-report. I mean, that's why you have notaries.
You
right?
can't. You have notaries. You have witnesses. Your witnesses can't be relatives. I mean, there's a very concerted effort to make sure that it's objective and accurate and fair.
Well, full disclosure, the subsection is you can also do this. I don't know why I'm saying full disclosure. I'm not hiding anything.
You can't just make stuff up.
According to the compiled law, you can all. It says you do one or both of the following. The first one is signing the two witnesses, or B, acknowledged by the principal, the person that's signing it over, before a notary public who endorses that. Okay, so there is a notary on the next page below it, but it's kind of weird because it says I acknowledge receipt of this.
Yeah.
But anyway, it says one or the other, or both. One or the other or both.
Those are two. Those are apples and oranges.
So you did both. Anyway, you did both. You're not allowed to do this. Is the point? Yeah. Why was the case closed? Why did you inject yourself into it? Why wasn't I allowed to get my tax papers? Yeah. Oh, I'm going to be hitting the road. I'm going to be doing the great American road trip.
Really?
Negotiating with cable TV and the NBN. You know what I mean? But until that gets going, because we got a few months now, we're going to bring you the news because I sat around for 6 months. I'm like, oh, nobody really does do any digging, do they? I just noticed that.
Yeah, that's the one thing you said to me on your hiatus, too. That was like, hey, I've been watching a lot more cable news. Boy, is it terrible. And I've been watching a lot more local news. And boy, is that even worse.
But people missed the show, Charlie. People missed you, and people recognize with your absence that a factual injection of what is actually going on doesn't exist. It's all fluff. Everything is fluff. Everything is propaganda. Everything is narrative control. Everything is about promoting, but people have no idea what's going on. And there are few people that still want to know what's actually happening. So you were sincerely missed, Charlie. I got a call, an email, a text, something, Twitter, whatever, every day. How's Charlie doing? Give him my best. When is he coming back?
Mm-hmm. Thank you all for that. I appreciate it. And she didn't mention you by name, but she did let me know. And thank all of you that looked in on me. Lost a couple of people by their own hands during this. And, I'm thankful for you. Thank you. It's been hard. It's better. We'll go on. See you next week.